Hi, my name is Rodrigo Espinoza. I'm a UPS student attending a BA in ELT, and today we're going to be talking about searching oral and written sources to promote oral and listening comprehension, including a couple of examples of how I use some resources to help learners find and use these sources and materials. First of all, it is well, I like to say that finding appropriate resources for language teaching is not as easy as just to log in into the web and selecting a material that seems to be useful. There are some implications web users have to cope with. First, the availability of materials, and if it is in the internet, for example, and then if you're working with students at school and attempting to work in the library, the materials there might not be available as well. Another aspect of direct concern for language teaching is the nature of materials selected to use. In addition to this, the level of language in books or websites, and in the case of internet sites, guidance to explore the website itself, which tends to be difficult sometimes. Teachers, and not just language teachers, should observe the situations mentioned before asking learners to dive into a recommended site or into a library or book. It is complicated to find a source that contains the whole elements you imagine for your lesson plan. However, finding the best options is a teacher's, let's say, must in order to help learners not to feel overwhelmed at the moment of searching for materials or information. There's another thing. For example, allowing students to select some material through their own search can help them improve their reading comprehension, uh, as they will have to at least read introductions to find if the materials are appropriate and useful to complete a task or an assignment given. There is this idea that I found in this reading from these three authors, Elvira Gonzalez, Maria Lourdes Hernandez, and Juan Marquez Sia. Uh, well, it says school in general has attempted to introduce reading as a mandatory element, some sort of a punishment, and not as a leisure activity. So says Arguelles in 2007 when he cites these people that I've just mentioned. Another thing it says that the learner is evaluated departing from providing mechanical responses about a text, not making the text an element of leisure or pleasure, nor making the text an excuse for writing a conversation either. So we tend to evaluate our learners on how they perform in answering questions, not in comprehension of the text itself, right? And then, I mean, as it says in extensive reading, we shouldn't be grading our students for reading. We should allow them to read. We should allow them the opportunity to read just for pleasure, and then as implied in, well, as stated in Krashen's, those Krashen's theory, exposure to natural language will provide them opportunities to gather or to grasp better language. Okay, it may occur perhaps for this situation that I just mentioned because the teacher does not conceptualize and not perceive the aspect of communication, right? So he just thinks in a reading for answering questions or gathering information, but there are some aspects like these aspects of communication, like reading, writing, speaking, or listening, that are essential in every human activity. Though that goes beyond just reading a paper. So people like to talk, to speak, to listen, to read and write, and that's important too. However, an appropriate pedagogical practice should observe motivation for dialogues and active classroom participation, where every student expresses an opinion, respecting and valuing their peers' participation, right? And there are aspects to consider in which I find important, and it's not directly related to reading, but it's important, is the creation of a positive socio-affective environment in which respect, positive and empathic and democratic relations are promoted. Okay, I forgot to cite this paragraph, but I found it and it was interesting. And well, there are some examples that I found as well on internet, which I read, by the way, during our class, and I heard during the classes, or classes at the university. These are some suggestions, and these are kind of interesting because I saw them in class and I could relate to them. It says, read to your students as the first part. You read to them and you put some effort on doing that and do it so. and they will find it interesting. Okay, the teacher's gotta be a role model for reading. Okay, you gotta read books or prompt or promote in your students reading books in different subject areas, not just English or not just math or not just chemistry, but I mean in different genres. To make it clear, create individual classroom libraries. I mean, having books in your classroom is interesting, and your students will find it easier to select the book. You gotta help students to engage with the authors, to feel the reading, set related challenges, set reading challenges with some prizes. I mean, a candy or just a pricing will be like enough sometimes. I mean, you can celebrate book theme days and get your students to recommend books to other students. There are some things that I do with my students when I attempt to uh, when I ask them to read something or to find information. For example, as I work in a faculty for administration careers, it says suggesting my students to find an idea of what some people think about accounting. I suggest my students to are reading, and what do I tell them? Well, they describe the idea of accounting, what they think about it, but then I ask them to do some reading, and in the reading they find information which is relevant for their classes. It's not just any reading; it has to do with accounting. This is what I tell them. In this reading, you will find information about what the feeling towards accounting is. Take notes and write a brief or a summary that you will share during the classes. That's something. There is this thing that this text that I like to share with my students. This is in Spanish, and it has to do with expressing yourself. It's hard for students to talk first of all, but then this is for the first levels, right? It's about the verb be. It has to do with, for example, there is this. They gotta describe who they are, and this is rather complicated. It's hard for students to say it even in Spanish, right? So I ask them to read this text, which is related to that topic in Spanish. Then we use the text to express some ideas about what they say in the text, right? But then in English, we do this translation, right? But with their own ideas, and then I ask them to talk about themselves. These are just a couple of examples. I have another one which I found interesting. Uh, it says, let me see it. Okay, for human resources in general, my management classes, there is a reading which is commonly used within my classes, and it has to do with multitasking. Multitasking is seen as a person who can do a lot of things at the same time, which is sometimes good, and employers like it, and I ask my students to read this paper because it's interesting for all the careers. I guess these ideas motivate them to read a little bit because the content is implied within their careers. Well, this is a short video. I hope it helps and it complies with the requirements from our classes. Thanks for watching. My name again is Rodrigo Espinoza. I hope to see you soon, and thanks for your time.